Hello. In the day we'll be playing NeveN. Alright, so this new update has a new music for the menu, and if you saw the new update from last month, you know that the UI has been changed a lot. The font of the words in the menu, and as well as the dialogue, the word font has changed. After passing through the great doorway of the throne room, one hand firmly on the hilt of my rapier, I can't help but cast a worried glance towards Gilead as he organizes the troops. When finally everyone is ready to leave, the captain joins me, patting me on the shoulder. You may not know it, but these people place a lot of hope in you. You're a symbol in spite of yourself. Yeah, well, I wish I had half as much trust in myself as they have hope in me. Yeah, that's like pretending to be calm. True bravery is giving others the illusion that all is well during the darkest hours. Even with the Panther's support, I can't help but feel my heart pounding with force against my chest. So I close my eyes and take a long breath before trying to look my fiercest, but I see that Gilead is trying to hide a smile. Don't overdo it. Better 2 months than too little. Besides, I'm going to be singing a song, so I've got to get into the character. And with that, I clear my throat and head for the troop of would-be warriors. After all, I need to activate my brand, so I might as well deliver something that will motivate everyone. And I've got exactly what I need for that. It's not really a song, but words spoken by a hero whose name I've totally forgotten, even though it's completely slipped my mind, what he said sounds perfect for the situation. So I pull myself up onto one of the barricades formed in the entrance of the throne room before turning my gaze in the direction of those who look the most fearful, determined to give them some of the courage we all need. I'm the lighthouse in the midst of darkness, an unshakable stone against the tide. And may my God be my witness. Our enemies will have nowhere to hide. My brain lights up, and the Africans facing me seem possessed by renewed vigor. I don't know if it's my words that have this effect, or if it's simply the idea that my powers will save them, but I can read the hope in their amazed eyes. And when I see the proud look on Gilead's face, I can't help but feel like one of the heroes of my songs, the very songs that have gotten me this far. So I grab the hilt of my rapier before pointing my weapon in the air with my most ferocious look. Then I address them in a voice that no longer trembles. It's trying. It's time to drive the enemy out of these halls. And in turn, some warriors raise their weapons in response to my invitation, while others strike their shields as if to intimidate a kind of applause. It's time to drive the enemy out of these walls. And in turn, some warriors raise their weapons in response to my invitation, while others strike their shields as if to imitate a kind of applause. After that, the captain has no trouble organizing a march, and I join him at the head of the procession for a moment. Good job. I think they all needed that. I never imagined myself doing that, but come to think of it, it fits with my royal board qualifications. It's so much more than that now. After shrugging my shoulders, I smile at him, shaking my head. No, I'm just like them. a little country boy willing to fight for what's right, and that won't ever change. But you said it yourself, if I pretend to be a hero, then maybe it'll give them a little extra chance to survive. It costs me nothing to try. Gillant nods before pushing me to the back of the line. Well, you may be a hero in their eyes, but I have to protect you. So go stand in the center of the group, just so you're surrounded. And no chit-chat, we need to stay on our toes. Don't you think it would give them more courage to see me by your side? Maybe, but I promise the prince I'll keep you in one piece, and I intend to keep that promise. Follow my directions and all will be well. I can't help letting out alongside. What kind of hero has to hide among the rest of the warriors? Anyway, I doubt Gillant has the patience to argue with me. There's no time to debate. So I place myself among the other warriors, and I can't help feeling a little embarrassed when they observe me as if I were some fantastic creature. Even if I'm used to having an audience and playing roles, the feeling of deceiving them about who I really am in a situation where lives are at stake is very new to me. I can't help but feel a certain discomfort doing this, so all I can find to do is offer them a smile while I concentrate on my surroundings. That's when the huge hand closes on my shoulder, startling me. Then the voice of King Lusk rings in my ears. You're doing well so far. I know the first time isn't easy. For a moment, I'm not sure what to say, both because of the surprise, but also because Gillant made it very clear that I was to avoid speaking. However, the king's insistent gaze makes me realize that I will have to put that instruction aside. Oh, thank you. I simply did what came naturally to me. Well, let's just say that Gillant strongly suggested to me that we needed to give our troops a little morale boost, but he doesn't need to know that. But I was wondering, is it really wise for a king to fight on our side? And where do you think I should be, if not on the battlefield? I don't know, in the office? Even though I wasn't trying to be funny, the bear burst out laughing before patting me on the head, and I have to admit it's a tad belittling. No, I'm not that kind of king. I won this position by the sword, and I intend to keep it by the sword. If that means you leave your husband and the prince behind. The gigantic bear shrugs his shoulders as if he doesn't care and shakes his head. My death has always been a possibility, long before I became king. Sometimes you can't win without a fight. Maelbjorn and Aeon both know that. You know, our best leaders were born rulers. Far from it. They became so out of a necessity in order to guide us through troubled times. The king doesn't force his throne, but the throne forces the king. That's what I tried to teach my nephew. And it's that example I must set today. If Frostfang needs us to be warrior kings, well, so be it. Frostfang also needs his bards to be warriors, it seems. I'm even led to believe that Frostfang only needs warriors and nothing else, but I'll avoid saying that out loud in front of the king. At least I can't say that our kings lack courage. I guess that's what makes you so popular out there. The bear is about to retort, but the troop starts marching, so he just offers me a smile before tapping my shoulder and rejoining the rear guard. Slowly we make our way through the corridors that are now quite familiar to me, and yet where I once saw these walls as comforting protection, they are now oppressively stifling. It's time to drive the enemy out of these walls. And in turn, some warriors raise their weapons in response to my invitation, while others strike their shields as if to imitate that kind of applause. After that, the captain has no trouble organizing the march, and I join him at the head of the procession for a moment. Good job. I think they all needed that. I never imagined myself doing that, but come to think of it, it fits with my royal bard qualifications. It's so much more than that now. After shrugging my shoulders, I smile at him, shaking my head. No, I'm just like them. A little country boy willing to fight for what's right, and that won't ever change. But you said it yourself, if I pretend to be a hero, then maybe it'll give them a little extra chance to survive. It costs me nothing to try. Gillant nods before pushing me to the back of the line. Well, you may be a hero in their eyes, but I have to protect you. So go stand in the center of the group, just so you're surrounded. And no chit-chat, we need to stay on our toes. Don't you think it would give them more courage to see me by your side? Maybe, but I promise the prince I'll keep you in one piece, and I intend to keep that promise. Follow my directions and all will be well. I can't help letting out alongside. What kind of hero has to hide among the rest of the warriors? Anyway, I doubt Gillant has the patience to argue with me. There's no time to debate. So I place myself among the other warriors, and I can't help feeling a little embarrassed when they observe me as if I were some fantastic creature. Even if I'm used to having an audience and playing roles, the feeling of deceiving them about who I really am in a situation where lives are at stake is very new to me. I can't help but feel a certain discomfort doing this, so all I can find to do is offer them a smile while I concentrate on my surroundings. That's when the huge hand closes on my shoulder, startling me. Then the voice of King Lusk rings in my ears. You're doing well so far. I know the first time isn't easy. For a moment, I'm not sure what to say, both because of the surprise, but also because Gillant made it very clear that I was to avoid speaking. However, the king's insistent gaze makes me realize that I will have to put that instruction aside. Oh, thank you. I simply did what came naturally to me. Well, let's just say that Gillant strongly suggested to me that we needed to give our troops a little morale boost, but he doesn't need to know that. But I was wondering, is it really wise for a king to fight on our side? And where do you think I should be, if not on the battlefield? I don't know, in the office? Even though I wasn't trying to be funny, the bear burst out laughing before patting me on the head, and I have to admit it's a tad belittling. No, I'm not that kind of king. I won this position by the sword, and I intend to keep it by the sword. If that means you leave your husband and the prince behind. The gigantic bear shrugs his shoulders as if he doesn't care and shakes his head. My death has always been a possibility, long before I became king. Sometimes you can't win without a fight. Maelbjorn and Aeon both know that. You know, our best leaders were born rulers. Far from it. They became so out of a necessity in order to guide us through troubled times. The king doesn't force his throne, but the throne forces the king. That's what I tried to teach my nephew. And that's that example I must set today. If Frostfang needs us to be warrior kings, well, so be it. Frostfang also needs his bards to be warriors, it seems. I'm even led to believe that Frostfang only needs warriors and nothing else, but I'll avoid saying that out loud in front of the king. At least I can't say that our kings lack courage. I guess that's what makes you so popular out there. The bear is about to retort, but the troop starts marching, so he just offers me a smile before tapping my shoulder and rejoining the rear guard. Slowly we make our way through the corridors that are now quite familiar to me, and yet where I once saw these walls as comforting protection, they are now oppressively stifling. Every stone on which I place a paw feels damp. Every creak in the beams of this structure seems a warning. And every gust of warmth that sweeps down the corridor crashes over me like the hot breath of a monstrous beast. In a single attack, these halls have become a veritable prison. It's as if this whole castle was closing in around me to crush me. Whereas only yesterday I considered this place my home. But I mustn't let it so. If I start to doubt, it could all come crashing down. Fortunately, I'm brought out of my thoughts by our boots' halt. See the bend in the corridor. I know we're approaching the jails. I hope Rowan and Simeon are safe. No, more than hope. I have to make sure. So I cross the ranks without delay, attracting a few astonished glances as I join Gillant again, who gives me a disapproving look. All I can manage is to give it back to him so I can assert myself, and it doesn't look like he's going to insist this time. Shortly afterwards, the king joins us and addresses the panther directly while keeping an eye on the corridors around us. Make haste. I fear the enemy will take advantage of our presence here to strike elsewhere if we don't hurry. Gillant merely replies with a silent nod before dispatching a security perimeter around the prison before entering, while I follow closely behind. All the captives are still there, but no trace of Rowan, so it's with haste that we go in front of Sydney's cell to find her immersed in a book from which she looks up when she hears us coming. At first, she seems amused by our presence, but I think the look on my face quickly informs her of the seriousness of the situation. What's going on? The castle's under attack. We think it's the Mercadians. The defendant's face twists into a hateful grimace and never seen transpire to such an extent before. Let me join you, and let's hunt our enemies together. Before we do anything else, we thought we'd find Rowan here. He's stormed off to come and free you without any escort. I didn't see him. At these last words, Simi's throat knots and fear seems to settle in her eyes. However, this quickly dissipates to give way to genuine anger as the spy grabs the bars with a strength I didn't know she had. Mercadian bastards! The captain remains wordless for a moment, but I can see he's forming fists with his hands. We didn't find a body on the way. Everything should be. Stop that. Stop acting like you don't care. You know as well as I do what they do to people like us. With them, being captured is worse than being killed. I know. And the panther's voice trembles, and I don't know if it's fear or rage that puts him in such a state. I need you to promise me that you will go straight to the throne room. King Aeon and Prince Maelbjorn will need you by their side. But Rowan, he's my lieutenant and my protege, so I'll bring him back if I have to die for it. Waits for similar silence, the captain opens his cell before shifting to let the defendant pass. The prince needs you at his side. You better keep your words, Gillant, and I'll come after you and Rowan to bring you back by the scruff of your neck. The panther can't help smiling and is about to reply when he's interrupted by Lust's impatient voice. Faster. After the situation has been communicated to the king, each prisoner is reviewed before being released. Gillant briefly explains to me that some of them were locked up here for being overzealous against McCann, and that the king decided to lock them up to ease tensions with their neighbors. This makes them perfect allies against the invaders from the south, although their unpredictable nature can still make them dangerous. Inwardly, I try to remember all the faces of the prisoners who are released, just to keep in mind who could try to stab me in the back should the situation turn ugly. Those kept in their cells, meanwhile, are either Mercadian agents or nobles known to have particular relations with McCann. Only those whose allegiance were not sure of remain, and among them I could see Boyce's coat still peering at us through his bars. He probably overheard the conversation since he questions Gillant as he approaches his cell. Are you really going to keep me here when the enemy is at our gates? That wouldn't be very reasonable, considering that McCann is our common enemy, even if our opinions differ. Your fighting skills would be most welcome, my lord, but I'm afraid the decision to release you is not mine to make. Hearing this exchange, Lust approaches and looks at Gillant and Boyce before giving me an annoyed look when he realizes I'm listening too. so I pretend to move away, but I won't make much difference. Those big ears are there for exactly the reason. For exactly that reason. Indeed. I hope you don't mind, Brass, but the tensions between you and Maelbjorn are too great for me to take that risk. I wouldn't have fought with your heir if he hadn't forced me to. You know as well as I do that this was just a political game, nothing more. But I'm ready to forget the public insult done to me. It was for the good of the kingdom. Gillian and the king exchange a glance. Then the king replies with a sigh. No, we'll discuss it again once it's over. If it ends the way you want it to, we'll make sure it does. And without another word, the king leaves, followed by the captain, who grabs me by the arm so I can do the same. Do you seriously intend to release him later? You really let your ears hang everywhere, huh? But right now, I got a lot more on my mind than the fate of a lord a little too rebellious for his own good. Another non-answer. I'll have to get used to it eventually. Once outside the prison, we formed the ranks. This time it's to march towards the armory, where the guards should finally find something to properly equip themselves with. But no sooner have I turned the corner than I hear cries of surprise and horror, so I struggle to try and catch a glimpse of what's happening between the huddled warriors who are at a standstill. The youngest of the group run forward, allowing me to see Rowan lying against the wall at the end of the corridor, blood dripping from his armor. He still seems to be moving, but when he looks up at us, I see that he's trying to speak without any sound coming out of his mouth. Among the soldiers, the less disciplined ones start running towards the lieutenant in order to go to his aid, and it's at this moment that Gillian's voice rings out. Stop! But it's too late. The recruits fall to their knees on the ground and start clawing at their throats as if looking for a way to breathe. It's Rowan's power. His spores are in the air. Don't come any closer. As I stand there, staring blankly while I try to comprehend the situation I find myself in, dust falls from the ceiling to crash onto my snout. I barely have time to look up when a din rings in my ears and the box explodes, collapsing on top of me. And then, nothing. The next moment I see the recruits pass me, and I blink before realizing that it's the two Africans I've just seen die. Wait, I don't have time to stop them. They're suffocating in front of me again. Stop! It's Rowan's power. His spores are in the air. Don't come any closer. Oh no. I shift and raise my head to focus my powers on the ceiling to immobilize the stones, which I know deep within me will soon crumble. Run away! However, before the others have time to react, dust falls from everywhere and the ceiling collapses again, crushing several of the warriors around me. After the resounding sound of the collapse falls silent, cries of terror as well as bestial roars reach my ears. I try to regain my senses as I grasp for the dust-filled air that's suffocating me, then I crawl blindly over to the stones to try and extricate myself from the collapse. Among the stones are the broken, bloody bodies of those who accompanied me, their faces tense with the fear that gripped them in just a few seconds. I couldn't save anyone but myself. If only I'd been stronger, if only I'd been able to stop the collapse of that whole ceiling. No, I can't let myself think that way. I've got to find someone, get out less, anyone, if they manage to survive this ambush. After scaling the stones, I find myself on the top floor with no way of rejoining the rest of the troop. Then I release my power, dropping the blocks I managed to stop, which offers me a vision of my death as I see myself crushed by them, causing me to rest immediately. Come on, Eric. You've got to remember where you are. A whole bunch of sensations run through me as I feel like my brain is going to explode with the headache I'm getting while I look around in order to get my bearings. Yes, there. There must be a staircase nearby. I think it's the administrative floor. For a moment, I stopped, staring into nothingness as a thought occurs to me. Where am I trying to go where the danger is? What's wrong with me? I could, one, hide in the corner of the castle and wait for the storm to pass. But instead, here I am, trying to be a hero. Shit. Without really knowing why, I'm stopping myself in the face. It's as if I'm struggling to come to terms with the reality of my situation. No time to think, Eric. You got to go. If not for Gillian, at least for Maelbjorn. So I was around my rapier from its scabbard before advancing towards the stairs, and the screams that echoed beneath me gradually fall silent to make way for an icy silence, just like during the beast's first assault. When I finally reached the bottom of the stairs, a vision of horror opens up before me. More corpses, but this time they seem to have been killed with deadly precision, a far cry from the mutilations I saw the first time. So, is this the work of the Mechanians? No time for questions. I continue through the court-strewn corridor, hoping to find survivors, but there isn't even a single African who is merely wounded among those I can see. Not far away, a roar echoes, making the corridor's windows shake, and shortly afterwards I hear the grunts of an African. They're in the courtyard, I think, but that means the beast is out there too. I force myself to take a deep breath before exhaling a breath, hoping I keep my wits about me and don't freeze like mere prey at the sight of this creature. Then, at last, I find the courage to continue on the door that leads to the outside while taking the necessary precautions to make myself unnoticeable. At first I hear the sound of the rain beating violently against the cobblestones in the courtyard, then I get a glimpse of what's going on outside. Gillian, covered in wounds and surrounded by pieces of his armor, but still sword in hand, is facing a beast, or rather a monster, which is circling the captain as if waiting for an opening. Yes, a monster, that's the right word. The flash of lightning striking in the distance lets me see that it seems to be made up of different species, some of which I've never seen before, while this thing moves on its forelegs with bestial power. Right, so this tail here looks like some kind of lizard, and then the legs are like a cheetah or a leopard, and the white torso and arms, I think, I don't know, could be a polar bear. And the claws, it might be a polar bear. The captain he's losing. That's impossible. He's our best warrior, our champion, and a mere beast is ripping him to shreds. I must act, but I must think before I do. It's time to put my learning to the test and try something new. The fact that it has parts of different species helps me imagine each of them as a separate piece, much like a weapon or a shield would be. Yes, its paws are weapons whose claws are sharp blades. Concentrating on its right paw, I see the circles beginning to animate, and I try to stop them just as Gillian launches into an attack. Since he wasn't expecting to hit, the strike only partially sinks into the beast's shoulder, but at least it doesn't manage to pull away as it looked like it was going to. As for me, I remain partially hidden behind the wall while being forced to keep an eye on the fight in case he still needs my assistance. That's when the Panther tries a more daring move, intended to decapitate the beast, but something I wasn't expecting happens. In the same motion, the monster raises its paw as if it were an arm, and the captain's blade sinks into what is now a hand, slicing through up to half the thing's forearm. And almost instantly, flesh and bone close around the blade, forcing Gillian to pull on it with all his might to get it out. This is clearly the work of a brand, but the captain's powers, they have no effect. While screeching what sounds like a howl pain, the creature shoots with colossal force at the arm I block with my powers. and I see skin, muscle, and then bone tear and shatter as it backs away to distance itself from the character when he finally manages to pull his sword out of the beast's flesh. Gilad seems in total control of his emotions as he shows no surprise, but I can't help but be awed when the monster stands up on its two with legs. No, it's not an animal, nor an arena beast. It's definitely an anthrokin. I can see the brand, two intersecting semicircles. Kelathan. The panther has no time to wonder. He simply charges again when he sees his opponent is trying to understand where this sudden stop of his body came from. And I take the opportunity to release my power on the severed arm, giving me a vision of the wound that would have been inflicted on Gilad had I not intervened. However, and as the feline attempts to skewer the monster, the latter begins to regenerate his arm, but the panther doesn't give him time to do so completely, and he finds himself forced to use his scaly tail to parry the attack. Once again, the flesh is sliced, and this amalgam grunts in pain, but still not mortally wounded. Meanwhile, I can see his fully regenerated arm is different. It's covered in scales, but his claws are just as sharp. But when he tries to counterattack, I'm ready to block his body again, but it's too late when I realize my plan has been foiled. Indeed, the scaly skin slips away to reveal the creature's true arm, while what was merely a snake's mouth is suspended in the air by my power. The attack is so sudden that Gilad barely has time to move to get out of the way, and the claws tear off a piece of his mask, sending him to the ground in the process. Even so, the captain keeps his sword firmly in his hands and holds it out above him to try and impale the charging monster, but instead the latter strikes the blade and sends it flying to the side. Then with one of his paws, he crushes the warrior's torso, and the metal even begins to twist as Gilad screams. I got to save him. I got to do something, but I can't move. The creature steps back, then grabs the panther by the head before lifting him off the ground, watching triumphantly as it begins to let out a guttural laugh while lightning roars all around us. Then this thing opens its mouth wide. Is it going to devour him? No, you bastard, you won't. All of a sudden, I step out into the yard, my rapier pointed in its direction. Come here, fight. I am an avatar. I'm the one you're looking for, right? Slowly, the monster turns its head in my direction. The absence of flesh or the skeleton that serves its head gives it a sort of permanently ghoulish grin. And his voice resonates, though he seems to have difficulty articulating at first, as I see an unnatural movement of his muscles near his throat. There you are at last. And with those words, he lets go of Gilad, who collapses heavily to the ground, defeated, then moves slowly in my direction. I can feel myself trembling with each of its steps in my direction, and before my mind can even take the lead, the creature uttered these words. Now one. No need to tell me twice. I have no intention of facing him, especially not here. I got to get him away from Gilead. So I turn around in order to rush into the castle, and I hear him accelerate just behind. If my last encounter with him taught me anything, it's that he's a lot faster than I am. But I already have a plan. There are corridors far more narrow than the main aisles. All I have to do is reach them and slip through. No, I don't have time. He's already catching up. I can hear him growling. That's when I see the spear of one of the soldiers the beast killed on the ground, and my very first training with Maelbjorn comes to mind. He's much heavier opponent than me, and that could be to my advantage. So without another thought, I grab the spear and turn around suddenly, resting the wooden shaft against the ground. I barely have time to position myself before the beast is in front of me, its mouth wide open and ready to devour me. But despite the fear, I hold my weapon firmly, ready to stab this monster as the prince taught me. However, to my surprise, as the point barely penetrates the creature's flesh, the wooden handle splinters under its weight as I see my last moments devoured by the suit's fangs. And here I am again, facing the spear as I blink to understand where I am. In the time it takes me to get my bearings, a beast comes up behind me and whips me into two, wailing a scream from me that's only silenced by my death. Please, make it stop. I go back once more, but this time fear paralyzes me so hard that I stand there, doing nothing, not even daring to turn around to see the beast coming to devour me once more. How many times must I die? For a moment I can see him, the avatar test. He's holding out his hand to me, strong as a temptation to take it, to end it all, to run away from my responsibilities, and to abandon Maelbjorn, Akhet, all those who count on me, all those who count for me, to abandon the pleasures of life, the music that drives me. No, my heart beats, and it's a rhythm. I'm not ready to give up. Slowly a new rage takes hold of me as I endure many a pain and go through many a death. To each their nature, to each their place. This thing wants to condemn me to be its prey for eternity. I'm not going to give it that pleasure. So when I find myself in front of that spear again, I grab it and place it as I had done before. This time I know what to do. Concentrating quickly on the weapon, I freeze it in time, and just as Skeleton's avatar crashes against the spearhead, I leap back to be on the range of its fangs as he gets impaled on it. That monster roars in pain as the weapon enters its torso with such force that it shatters its bones and pierces it through and through, immobilizes it in place. I better maintain my power because the instant I release it, the spear will shatter into 1,000 pieces. But this thing is still alive. It wants me with its carnivorous air as I struggle to get to my paws. It's not an arena beast. I suspected as much. We've been trying to find a way out to find you and Gilliant without meeting even one Mercadian. Gilliant was defeated by this thing, and it's Skeleton's avatar. For a moment the king looks at me as if he doesn't believe me, but I think my defeated look is enough to convince him. Is Gilliant dead? No, I think I saved him just in time. But Rowan, I saw, yes. Lust steps back a little and rubs his eyes, but I do my best to recover from this encounter, but the king addresses me again. So Rowan dies in Maelbjorn's route also. We don't actually see it. We actually see him die, but like in a cat's route, but he also dies in Maelbjorn's route as well. So I assume that he's gonna die once we get to Tanak's version for chapter 8. So I wonder what chapter 8 for Vakar is going to be, because that turned out to be completely different, because in Akhet, Maelbjorn, and Tanak's routes we're still in the castle, but in Vakar's route we're out in the countryside, away from the castle. So I wonder how different chapter 8 for Vakar will be. That's the one I'm really anticipating to see, since Vakar's route is, in the past couple of chapters, been totally different from the other three. Les steps back a little and wells his eyes while I do my best to recover from this encounter, but the king addresses me again. When the ceiling collapsed, we sent someone to warn Aeon of the beast's attack. He's preparing a trap now with Maelbjorn, but we'll have to lure this monster close to the castle's main gate. He's smart, he can even talk, not to mention that he looks completely invincible. I impaled him with a spear, and he got away without a scratch. Yellow wounded him too, but he regenerates. That's information they don't have. But believe me, when you have my brand, you know there are many other ways to end the threat than by killing it. We'll have to improvise, but I hope our powers will be enough to stop this creature, otherwise we're doomed. A heavy silence settles between us as we each think separately, then I dare to present an additional problem to the situation. How are we supposed to lure him into a trap? He seems to know all about traps. If he's here, it's for a reason. And that reason's me. If what you reported to us is true, he's probably here to kill you, yes. Your test didn't lie anyway. I can always add his bait, lure him right into the trap. But if he's smart, there's a chance he'll see it coming. He chased me this far, and he seemed pretty eager to catch me. Even if he's perceptive, I believe he can make mistakes. However, before we even have time to think of another plan, one of the tables flies across the room and crashes against a wall, taking a few soldiers with it in the process. The beast quickly approached another entrance, but the soldiers who were alert are now confronting it. One of the warriors shoots jets of flame towards the avatar, whose skin transforms into some kind of thick chitin to form a seal. Then he uses his tail to impel the soldier from beneath his natural protection. Next, another African slashes its skin with projectiles formed from the cobblestones that make up the castle, and the beast responds with spikes that shoot up of its back and send straight at the warrior, impaling him against the nearest wall. The avatar seems to have the answer to every attack, and it only takes a few seconds to get rid of the nearest warriors. Some of them start to back away, and the beast doesn't even attempt to attack them. In fact, his eyes are on me. Les meanwhile rushes to another exit to clear it, then prepares to face the creature. Run! And that's exactly what I do before I even hear this instruction. My heart starts beating stronger again as I run through these increasingly hostile corridors. Fortunately, this time I know where I am, and I have no trouble making my way to the castle's great gate. But again, I hear him chasing me. Has he got rid of lust already? His claws, his hot breath, he's closing fast. And as I pass on the archway that leads to the huge gate that leads to the ramparts, two arms compose a saddle suit over my shoulder. When I turn around, it's to see the enormous maw of my hunter about to devour me once more. Except this time, Aeon's saddle keeps its jaws apart in the fierce struggle to protect me. Get out of the way! The person's voice comes from the walls, but I don't have time to react as the avatar's tail heads straight for me. However, Les comes out from behind and grabs it with both hands and pulls on it until it whips off with ways I didn't think him capable of. You'll have to fight us first. So be it. How does he talk with his maw kept open? His arms twist towards the bear king to impale his ribs with his claws. Then a new maw springs from his back to bite the king on the neck. The latter lets out a black cloaked scream, but surprisingly he still has the strength to grab the beast and wrestles with it as I watch the wounds of these two monsters close over and over again. As I step back to escape this titanic battle, I can see Maelbjorn standing behind me on the balustrade, ready to shoot. But he can't, not without hitting Lust. The latter manages to grab hold of the avatar's jaw while Aeon wraps his saddlery bonds around the beast's muscular limbs in an attempt to immobilize it. Then slowly the bear king pulls the jaws apart with his bare hands, his fingers painfully digging into the fangs that are trying to tear him apart. Suit. Faced with this order, I can see that the prince is hesitant, and then Aeon's voice rings out with a strength that seems to be distressed by grief. Suit, son, or we'll all die. And the next moment, a bolt shoots from the weapon with tremendous power, piercing both the avatar and us before crashing into the cobblestone, sending a spray of blood to the ground. The beast howls in pain as the white tiger saddles finish wrapping around it to immobilize it. As for Lust, he doesn't move. He's simply staring into nothing. Yet his wounds continue to regenerate as if he were mustering the last of his strength to keep himself alive. Eric, your power, on the boat, quick. Even though I had thought of this, the fact that the bear was also stuck with the beast made me hesitate, but I can't refuse this order, not after Maelbjorn was forced to sue his own father. So I tried to perceive the circles around the projectile in order to block it in time, immobilizing the creature for good. And slowly its skin seems to decompose and its flesh to liquefy, while the bones that make up its skull crack and fall to the ground to reveal who lies beneath this monstrous beast. That's impossible. Fakad. Despite the surprise that strikes us all, Eon turns to his soldiers and beckons them in the direction of his husband. Bring it up, Moriani, quick. Several of them rushed over to stabilize the bear, where I realized my powers on the boat so they can cut and remove it slowly while gradually healing its wound. As for Fakad, he was removed from the projectile and tackled to the ground, then securely bound with chains that gleam with a glow I know well, that of custide. And as Aeon and I look at each other, Maelbjorn joins us to Lust, whom he takes in his arms after making sure the wound is closed. Then he hugs him while trying to catch his gaze, but is hopelessly blank. The prince begins to shake, on the verge of tears, as he addresses his adopted fathers. Dad, I'm here. Answer me, Dad, please answer me. There's something deeply unsettling about seeing the prince, this warrior so strong and sure himself, become a child again, and right now, I don't know whether to join him or not. I can see in Aeon's eyes that he's lost too. He's no longer the king of legends at this very moment, but just a wounded husband. Seeing them both in this state, I can't help but cast a pleading glance towards the tiger before looking at Maelbjorn. In the two of us, we join him before crouching down next to us. The tiger puts his hand on his adopted son's shoulder, and I can see he's struggling not to cry, probably for fear of showing a side of himself he doesn't wish to show to his warriors. And the prince raises his gaze to him, containing a sob as Aeon caresses his face with a tenderness he never had for the prince until then. I didn't mean to. It's not your fault, Maelbjorn. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices. I'm not ready to make that sacrifice. The king turns his gaze to us and lifts his clothes to expose his brand, but still glows, albeit faintly. He's not ready for that either. He's still fighting inside. Your father will give Tess a hard time before he gets swept away, believe me. Ian tries to reassure Maelbjorn with a pained smile, but the prince nods as he looks up at Fakad. Then he straightens up and moves towards the stag, grabbing his axe while addressing him in a trembling voice. How can you do this? His cavernous voice echoes against the walls around us as he thunders with terrible words. We grew up together. Around us, the priests hurry to get Lust to his bed, while the surviving soldiers move away, as if they understand that it's high time to give the prince some space. The hunter, meanwhile, trembles and looks around in a panic. What have I done? I was in the baths, and now? The prince lifts Fakad and stamps him against the nearest wall, raising his axe in the air. Wait, he's not himself. Himself or not, he killed our men. He's wounded a king, my father. He'll have to answer for it. Maelbjorn's right. We can't pretend nothing happened. Did I really kill those people? I really did all that evil. I thought it was just a bad dream. Yes, I did. I killed those Macadians too. The prince lets his axe-wielding arm drop and steps back, speaking in a voice broken by grief. I was you all along. I sent you to save them. You assured me it would be done. I had no control, Maelbjorn. I can't control anything. There's a heavy silence between the two of them, although I get the impression that Maelbjorn's anger hasn't completely subsided. You should execute me. I don't want to hurt anyone anymore. And I don't know if I can stop it happening again. You're right, Vakad. We have to put an end to this suffering while there's still time. Again, the prince raises his axe, but this time I see a hesitation in his gaze, as if his mind is struggling internally with his own rage. It's up to me. No one else can. And we're going to let Maelbjorn do it first, then afterwards we'll come back to this choice and start the prince, but we're going to let Maelbjorn do it. I feel a sense of injustice, as if Vakad didn't deserve this, as if he wasn't the author of all these deaths. After all, this creature wasn't acting like him, not like the hunter I knew, even though I knew little about him. But this decision's not mine, especially not after what he did to us. Maelbjorn made me understand at length that certain choices were painful but necessary, that the king's responsibilities could be devastating. Perhaps this choice is the one that will lead him to the throne. Perhaps it will help him assert himself as a ruler. Maybe this is how all those tales that end with the death of the monster are resolved in reality. Maybe it just leaves a bitter taste in the hero's mouth. However, just as the prince is about to strike, Aeon steps forward and thunders. Wait, you should let Era do it. If information is correct, he could enhance his brand by killing another avatar. Maelbjorn returns to me for a moment, just long enough for our eyes to meet. Deep down, I hope with all my heart that he's able to read the fear in me. And at the same time, I find it unfair that he has to execute Vakad. Once again, he seems crushed by the weight of the power he will have to inherit. No, he's not a warrior. He's a royal bard, Avatar NeveN or not. He doesn't have to carry that weight. Confused look, I can't help but reach out and stroke his muzzle, hoping to offer him some tenderness as well. Don't worry, it happens to me too. It's a good way to unwind, but just not right now. The prince nods, and he doesn't even seem particularly disappointed, just lost. It's kind of strange. After that, he pulls away from me a little and turns his back to me, so I do the same while hoping deep down I haven't hurt his feelings. And as sleep begins to take me, I can hear what sounds like whispers coming from his side. Be continued. Hello everyone, we hope you enjoyed this chapter. If you want more information about NeveN, feel free to follow us on Twitter. We also have a Discord allowing you to chat among community members. Finally, if you would like to support our project, we also have a Patreon that offers you a series of benefits such as builds 2 weeks in advance, but also unique stories about the characters of NeveN. If you like the VN, please also feel free to rate us on the issue. It will help us a lot. Once again, a big thanks to all of you, and see you soon. Alright, so that's how this chapter ends when Maelbjorn kills Vakad. So we're about to go back and do the other choice where they decide not to kill Vakad. I don't believe it was Vakad. I don't believe it was Vakad's doing. I think somebody else was controlling Vakad. I think somebody else was doing that. I think it's from Makad. A Makadian was controlling Vakad, doing all that stuff. Because Vakad wouldn't do all that. Unless there's something about Vakad that we don't know of. I'm pretty sure that he wouldn't have done all that. He was very sympathetic at the end about what he did. He even begged them to execute him. And so I think it's somebody else controlling him. And Maelbjorn was very betrayed. He felt betrayed by Vakad. I mean, he thinks that Vakad did all that on his own, but I don't believe it was Vakad. Somebody must have controlled him. But again, he has a small brain, so usually avatars are like those with huge brains. So like Eric and Tanakh, when they had that dream, it was because their brains were bigger and powerful. Usually, I mean, I don't think Vakad's brain's that powerful, so I don't know how somebody was able to control him. Anyway, so I decided to make a separate save. So like um just like last time with the cat, he had to make that choice whether to kill Vakad or spare him. So I made two saves for that. So we're about to go back and we're going to start the prince. Wait, Maelbjorn and Aeon both turn towards me, so I move closer in the hope of stopping the slaughter. You don't need to kill him. You can spare him. I agree in part. It's up to Eric to execute him, not you. We need his powers. This time, I turn to Aeon, frowning as I try to sow as much bravery as I can in front of the king. No one will kill him. But the tiger replies with a subtle hint of threat in his voice. Are you going to try and talk us out of it? Stop it, both of you. What do you suggest, Eric? Maybe there's a way to kill him, to get him on our side. We're not sure if Tess was telling the truth in the case one avatar kills another. We don't know if it really reinforces the brand. But what we're sure of is that having more avatars on our side can only be an improvement. I feel like I'm imposing on Vakad what I've been through myself, becoming a weapon on behalf of a kingdom, but in his case it's either that or death. And faced with my argument, Maelbjorn lowers his axe and Maelbjorn lowers his axe as he considers his suggestion for a moment, while the tiger frowns. What's to say he can be cured? I don't intend to have them. I don't intend to have him behind our backs when we face the enemy. It would be far too dangerous. And then all those warriors who died. How can I look their comrades in the face if I spare the one who killed them? You've already proved your strength to them by defeating Breas. Now prove your generosity by sparing Vakad. That could be taken as weakness. Or it could be taken for loyalty. He's been a servant of the kingdom, so he deserves to have the kingdom show him some gratitude in turn. Besides, you said yourself, Maelbjorn, you grew up together. Would the Vakad you knew be able to do that? All fighting spirit seems to have left the prince. He just stands there looking empty before addressing us again with a rare expression. I don't know. I don't know anymore. The Vakad begins to speak again, faintly at first, then with a sort of growl in his voice. Kill me. Kill me. The bear steps towards him and reaches out in his direction, trying to look reassuring. It'll be alright, Vakad. Huge fangs grow in the hunter's mouth as he tries to rip the prince's hand off, but fortunately, the Maelbjorn has enough reflexes to pull it back before sending a punch into the stag's face, knocking him unconscious on the spot. The Custode, it doesn't work on him. All the more reason to finish him off. We can't contain him if his powers can't be stopped. You can lock him up. Your powers are strong enough. Besides, I'm sure that with other powerful brands, it's possible to keep an eye on him. That requires resources we're really starting to lack. What about Ambassador Tanakh? Although he's trustworthy, he's still a foreigner. I don't intend to put an avatar in his hands. Your distrust of the Mechanians led you to make this mistake. Later made the mistake of thinking they were behind this attack. Are you really going to let that mistrust drive you to make yet another mistake of that kind? Cut it out, the both of you. I was probably one of Vakad's closest acquaintances, even if that doesn't mean much to a hermit like him. and yet I was unable to see what was happening to him. The signs were there, but I was blinded by my own problems. As the future king, I feel that this choice is my responsibility. And as a current king, I feel the best thing to do is to let Eric deal with him. Father, I'll never be a good ruler if you make all the decisions for me. Give me this opportunity to prove my worth. I must also be there to enlighten your choices when I think they are not wise. Many of Maelbjorn's decisions, whether good or bad, were made because he felt you wouldn't let choose. You wouldn't let choose. You wouldn't let him choose. And I wouldn't have let him fight Reyes if I'd known he was going to do it in front of a whole crowd. So rather he made made bad decisions behind your back, and then give him a chance to present his ideas to you in order to reach a compromise. I can sense in the king's eyes that he's beginning to feel a degree of impatience towards me. Being a good king takes a lot of time and hard work. Even after all these years, I still have things to learn. And that's why we usually make decisions without you, Maelbjorn. Whether you like them or not, we have the experience to know what's necessary. But Lust is normally there to bring nuances to my thoughts, which is why I imagine maybe it wouldn't hurt if you could join me in deciding the future. Would you agree to let me decide on this one? The tiger looks at us in turn, then sighs at length, shake his head. I suppose we can carry a different approach, but if you spare Vakad, he'll be your responsibility. You'll make sure he's guarded at all times, and you'll be in charge of finding a way to cure him. As for you, Bard, I've got my eye on you too. I hope you'll be of good advice to my son, or I'll intervene personally. Without giving us time to reply anything, he dashes off in the direction of the castle while guards left Vakad to drag him to his prison. No, the hunt must go on. Pathetic prey. Maelbjorn and I then look at each other with clearly stared at concern. Is there really any chance of curing him, to save him from this evil that's eating away at him? I guess we are just delaying the issue, but thank you for standing up for me in front of my father. I know he can sometimes seem somewhat threatening. After facing that Mons Vakad, it's like I'm not afraid of anything anymore. I'm tired of seeing obstacles where they shouldn't be any. After looking around to see if anyone is still around, the bear approaches and takes me by the hand, smiling. We lost a lot today, but at least I still have you. And I intend to be with you all the way, wherever that takes us, but for now, I'm mostly planning to be in a cozy bed. Will you come with me? After he nods, I lead him to my quarters, and he pauses for a moment before pulling me to his. If I'm to be caught with you, I prefer it if it were outside my bedroom, not yours. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever earn my place by his side. However, as we walk through the corridors, my grief seems quite insignificant when I see the bloodstains that are still there, even though the corpses have already been removed. I think of all those people who, like me, call this place home. From now on, for us, this place will be forever marked by the massacre that took place here. These corridors will always be like a gigantic labyrinth. It was a monster prowls, ready to carve us to pieces. Will I ever be able to get used to living here? After impressing that, Maelbjorn picks up on my unease when his hand closes a little tighter on mine. He offers me a warm smile, despite the fatigue in his face. I'd also like to thank you for preventing me from executing Vakad. I felt it was my duty that was necessary both to satiate my revenge and out of necessity to keep face in front of our troops. But I didn't want to do it, unlike Boyas, whom I truly wanted to kill. You don't have to thank me. In the end, you made the choice. Even though I intervened, you're the one you should be congratulating. We can't help but smile at each other as we finally reach his room. Each each on our own, we prepare for the night. He'll remove his armor, me wearing my still blood-soaked fur. And once we join each other in bed, we lie there for a while in silence, staring at the ceiling as if the unease had never really subsided. At least until the prince broke it by turning a worried gaze towards me. Tell me, do you think I'll ever be bored? Do you think I'll ever be in a bard song? I can't help but find the way he's asking it cute. I can hear that deep down he's hoping I'll say yes, and I don't even have to lie to satisfy his expectation. What kind of songs? Because believe me, you don't want to be in just any kind of song. Well, one that tells something positive, preferably, of course. I'm sure you'll have a whole bunch of these. Plus, I'll write some myself after all. You'll need a little something for your coronation. Again, the silence falls, and I hope I haven't said anything to upset Maelbjorn, but his deep, reassuring voice rings in my ears again. Sometimes I can't help wishing it would have. Sometimes I can't help wishing it would happen as late as possible because it implies that my fathers won't. They probably won't be with us anymore. But I'd like to be ready if it were to happen. I need to be ready. And not say you are. It's just that you're not aware of it yet. Looking in the bear's direction, I beat his eyes. I get the impression that he is touched by what I told him. I love you, Eric. And I love you just as much, Maelbjorn. With these gentle words, the prince pulls me against him, and together we close our eyes to drift off into a heavy sleep, populated nevertheless by painful thoughts. We continue. Alright, so that's everything for Maelbjorn's route for chapter 8. Alright, so I'm happy that these two are getting closer. And hearing them telling each other that they love each other. Maelbjorn telling Eric that he loves him, and Eric telling Maelbjorn that he loves him. That just shows how much this relationship has grown since the beginning. They go from complete strangers, to Maelbjorn at the beginning. Eric was just some bunny trying to get in the contest, and now he considers him to be somebody he loves and cares about. I kind of don't think his parents fully approve of Eric yet. I mean, they only care about, in my opinion, they really mainly care about Eric as being a weapon against Makad, the rival kingdom. But that's about it, really. Somebody that they can use for their interests. Not so much them liking Eric as a person. That's what I think, anyway. So, I was really mad with Eric for his decision, to convince him to spare Makad. So, and he promised to intervene between him and Maelbjorn if things don't go to plan. Since it was Eric's idea to spare Makad. So, and the other choice, Makad is dead now, but in this option here, Makad is in prison, but is still alive. So, we'll just have to see what happens once chapter 9 comes out soon. But we still got chapter 8 for Tanakh to do, and I'm very eager to see what happens with chapter 8 for Makad, because that's going in a totally different direction. Because instead of Eric and Makad being in the castle, like with Akad, Maelbjorn, and Tanakh, they're out in the wilderness, leaving Frostfang. They're trying to leave so the trouble will stay away from the castle instead of going there. So I wonder what's going to happen. Will there still be a massacre in the castle anyway, or will the massacre come to Eric and Vakad in the wilderness? So we'll just have to see what happens. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.